Hello friends, welcome back to the shop. Today is Sunday, June 4th, and it's a beautiful day here in southeastern Pennsylvania. I wish I could be outside right now, but unfortunately I just didn't have the time to do a setup for an outdoor video. So you got me in my basement again. But yeah, it just really is a nice beautiful day, and I'm hoping later today I'll be able to take advantage of that a bit. So I got a couple things I wanted to share with you today. First off, smoking this beautiful mortar pipe made by Rick Black, and in it I have 3 Friars from Cornell and Deal. And I'll tell you, this pipe has really grown on me. I think we're okay. Here's an example of that 2-finger method preventing a relight. I mean, this pipe I've had for, I don't know how many months now, less than a year certainly, and it is smoking like pipes that I've had for 20 years. And I don't know if this is a feature of mortar. This is the only mortar that I have, but other than a very subtle off taste with the first couple of bowls, it was barely noticeable. I mean, it was there because I was looking for it. It broke in so quickly, and it's just been a wonderful smoker. So if you haven't tried a mortar pipe, you might want to put one on your list, because it really does seem to be a unique material. Oh, the Zippo's back. I finally got to the store and picked up some more fluid. So, a couple things I wanted to talk about today. The first is a book, actually, and I got this book. Got it used through Amazon, and it is called The Pipe Book: A History and How-To, by a fellow named William Goldring, and this was published in the 1970s, as you can tell by that nice 70s era script. And this is an interesting book. Now, I got it, like I said, it's used. I don't even know if it's in print anymore, but I think I paid $3 for it. And the title came up, and I was Googling something or the other, and I saw the title, and I thought, oh, what's that? Had never heard of this book before. It's interesting. So it's got a lot of history in it. It's not terribly detailed history, but it's enough just to sort of keep things interesting. It's got a lot of really intriguing quotes and bits of poetry and things like that throughout it. And the really neat thing is that he kind of goes through the development. Put it down for a minute. He kind of goes through the development of tobacco pipes, starting with the original indigenous people method of basically making a pipe in the earth, so actually hollowing out a hole and starting a fire and putting the tobacco in there, and then putting tubes into the ground, or well, originally just putting a hole into the ground, putting your mouth over it, and then putting tubes into the ground like reeds or something like that to draw through. And it progresses from there into very simple tube pipes, similar to a cob cigar or briar cigar, and goes all the way up through briar. Also talks about calabash pipes, porcelain pipes, clay pipes, hookahs, various variations on the hookah theme. Just really interesting from a historical perspective to read about these things and to see how they developed over time. And to realize that pipe smoking is a lot older than we might think. He gives some very early references that I'm not remembering right now, but very early, that while they don't say the person was smoking a pipe, they, if you read into it a bit, you think that it's probably some sort of a pipe smoking going on, and not always with tobacco as we know it. Other plants and herbs were used as well. And the really cool thing about it is with each style of pipe, he actually gives instructions on how to make them. So you can see these line drawings. And some of these can be quite elaborate. Like here's a version of a gourd water pipe. And he also gives lots of pictures of pipes of various types. So these are Chinese water pipes that are made of metal. And it's got this sort of 70s feel to it. Here you see grinding a spade bit to make a tobacco chamber, and over here we've got some line drawings of a briar pipe you can make yourself. It's got a very 70s feel to it. Very, very few pictures of any of the things that he's suggesting you could make actually having been made. And as you read it, you get the feeling that none of these have actually been made. It reminds me of a book that I picked up in the library when I was a kid that was something really ridiculously titled, like how to fill your house with furniture built from discarded items or something like that. And it was all these line drawings of building, like bookshelves and sofas and, from pallets and things like that. And even, early age of 10 years old or so, as I read it, I was thinking, nobody's ever done this. It just doesn't seem like it would really work. But putting that aside, the history in this book is really interesting. And the one other thing I should warn you, there is a theme that runs through it that is not completely restricted to tobacco. It was the 1970s, so he comes right out and talks about pipes for cannabis and things like that. But that's a very small component of what's discussed overall. So if you happen to see a used copy, again, it's the pipe book, A History and How-To by William Goldring. It's worth taking a look at. Oh, and I wanted to share one thing with you from it. Just a quick excerpt here. And this is early on where he's talking about tobacco, and he's referring to a statement by a man named Joshua Sylvester who lived in the very early 1600s. I believe he died in 1610. And he wrote a famous pamphlet called Tobacco Battered. And this is what Joshua Sylvester has to say about tobacco. 2 smoky engines have been invented this in our age, guns and tobacco. Guns and tobacco pipes, of which the latter is the more deadly and infernal. For guns shoot forward at the foe, but tobacco pipes attack their own, poisoning their users. And if tobacconists keep on their course, they can better endure hell's sulfuric smoke. Pretty pointed text there from Joshua. And King James I, around the same time, so King James I died in 1620 something, he coined such phrases as the filthy fume and the precious stink. And he wrote a pamphlet, I believe, called Counterblast to Tobacco Smoking, in which he says, "It is a custom loathsome to the eye, hateful to the nose, harmful to the brain, dangerous to the lungs, and in the black stinking fume thereof nearest resembles the horrible Stygian smoke of the pit that is bottomless." So the reason I wanted to read that to you was even in the early 1600s there were anti-tobacco folks out there. So what we're dealing with today is nothing new. We just have a much more efficient government machine to leverage against our liberties. So that's everything on Goldring's book. I hope you appreciated that, and if you get a chance to read it, like I said, I really do recommend it. It's an interesting read. Although, don't consider it a how-to guide to making a pipe, because there's just really not a lot in there that, basically you can summarize all of his methods as drill a hole to put tobacco in and drill another hole to draw smoke through. Then it gives you different shapes. So, interesting read. So, if you're following the channel, I have finished the Kiko Meerschaum restoration, and you saw the final video in that series post last Wednesday. I was really pleased with the way that pipe came out. I thought it really looked great afterwards, and I'm sure that that pipe is going to be a great smoker. And I'm really happy that several people have commented on that video saying that they're either looking for a Kiko now or they've purchased a Kiko. And that's great, because I would really like to see more of those pipes, because they're just absolutely beautiful. So hopefully you all enjoyed that series. I have a new series starting probably not this Wednesday, and I've just got it's going to be difficult for me to get the video started this Wednesday, and there's been a few issues that have come up with sourcing parts and things like that. It's nothing significant, but it is going to slow me down a bit. So I'd rather not have to. I'd rather not post the first series, the first video, and then have to wait a couple of weeks before I can make the second video. So I'm going to delay that a week. And also, I've got some things going on this week that are just going to make it difficult for me to do very much on that end. So don't expect a video from me this Wednesday. I'll be back next weekend, and we'll take it from there. The last thing I wanted to talk to you about is a bit personal, but many of you that have been watching this channel for a while now know that over the course of last year I went through chemotherapy treatments. And they were successful. Everything has turned out great. The doctors, there's this thing where you have to wait 5 years before you can be declared cancer-free. But the doctors all say that, based on the tumor that was removed and the fact that it didn't get into lymph nodes, and the chemotherapy that I took, and the fact that there was a genetic marker that could use a targeted chemotherapy. All these things come together to say that I am as close to cured as you can be cured without waiting 5 years. So I'm very fortunate and very happy about that, obviously. Now, the reason I'm bringing it up is that in order to give me the chemotherapy drugs, they implant a device called a port, which is implanted in my chest under my skin. And if you're familiar with an IV line, which I'm sure you are, a port is basically like an IV line that lives inside of you. And it provides an access point where they can just kind of pop a needle into it and not have to worry about hitting a vein and all that. The port has a tube that goes directly into a vein that goes directly to the heart. So what they can do is they can give you the drug, it goes to your heart sends it through the rest of your body very rapidly. So there's very little worry about local damage to the veins and things like that. It's really a remarkable device. I mean, considering the number of times I had to get poked over the past year, if that would have had to have been in a vein, I would have been pretty unhappy. So I'm really, I think it's just one of the most remarkable things I've experienced during this long journey. But of course, it has to come back out. And that's happening tomorrow. So tomorrow I'm going into and it's a very minor procedure, but it is a surgical procedure. It's done in the office. You don't need to be put to sleep for it. Although I kind of wish I was, because they're just going to use a local and take it out. And I got to tell you, I'm probably more worried about this than I've been worried about any of the other stuff I've gone through over the past year. I don't know why. There's just something about the idea that this thing's poking into a vein and they're going to just be yanking it out. It just doesn't sit well with me. But it has to be done, and it is going to be done tomorrow. So I just ask that you keep me in mind, and if you're praying, folks, I would really appreciate the prayers between today and tomorrow. Like I said, I'm sure it's going to be fine. It's a minor procedure. They do it all the time, but for some reason this one just is getting to me. So we'll push through. And like I said, I'm sure all will be fine, and I'm sure that I will see you here next week. And I'll be sure to mention something in the comments tomorrow afterwards to let you all know it went well. So, with that, folks, I'm going to draw this weekend chat to a close. I hope you've all been having a great weekend so far, and I wish you all the very best in the week to come. So until we talk again, I will look forward to chatting with you all again very soon. Goodbye now.